our next chapter we're going to be looking at involves curve sketching. What this essentially is, it's pretty much in the name, is using mathematical techniques to find important features of a curve. So this is using all things that we have taught you, finding the gradient and then finding the second derivative, finding x-intercepts, all those kinds of things, until you have enough information where you can sketch a curve. Okay, so something like this, we would find where it cuts our x-axis, would find our max and min, would find a point of inflection, and find the gradient throughout that. Okay, we'd also find the domain and range of a local little area. So this is what we're trying to find using different things that we know. Now, it's important to have a bit of a checklist when we're doing this. So these are 7 things you want to find. So important features, checklist. And I want you to try and go through all of these and tick them off as you go through each one of these functions and try to sketch it. So firstly, we're going to find our stationary points where our y dash is going to equal 0. We're going to find points of inflection where our y double dash equals 0. We're going to find our x and y intercepts. We're going to make our x equals 0 and our y equals 0. These first 3 you should be very familiar with. You shouldn't have any problem with that. Domain and range. I know you guys hate doing domain and range, but something we need to go back over. Domain is how far either way in the x direction it's going, and the range up and down, the y values. Asymptotes and limits. These are kind of similar ideas. Asymptotes is a line that the function continuously approaches but never touches. A limit is a value x or y in which a line eventually gets to and kind of averages out to be in some way. It's a little bit of a harder concept, but they are similar in some way. Odd and even and symmetrical functions, we've got to do those tests. And last thing, I think this is probably one of the most helpful ways of just thinking about functions, because doing a table of values sets out what the x and y values are. The problem is when you get to really big functions, this kind of limits itself, and it's only so useful. But I still think these are kind of like training wheels to help you getting started to graphing functions, and it's a lot of stuff what we did in year 11. We used a lot of table of values, so you should be somewhat familiar with how to use them and how to graph functions based off them. I would use these to start with, but once you get the hang of it, you shouldn't need them as much, but you can occasionally use them to try and just get your head right. Sometimes especially in an exam where you just are thinking through so many things so quickly, it's good just to have this in your back pocket just to whip out and go, okay, I'm not entirely sure how to graph this. I'm quickly going to do a table of values on these specific x values with this function, find my y, and then I can sketch it. And it's very quick and easy to do as long as you're doing it properly. And that's what we'll be doing in this exercise.